Tom wiped the sweat from his forehead as he finished mopping the last hallway of the office building. The clock on the wall showed 11:30 p.m., which meant he had been working for 14 hours straight. His back ached and his hands were rough from all the cleaning supplies, but he could not stop yet. Tomorrow morning, he needed to be at the airport by 6 a.m. for his flight to Chicago. His sister Anna was getting married, and she had begged him to come. Tom had not seen his family in 2 years because he could never afford to travel. This time, Anna had sent him money for the plane ticket as her wedding gift to herself. She said she needed her big brother there on the most important day of her life. Tom locked up the building and walked to his old car. The engine made strange noises, but it still ran. As he drove through the empty streets, he thought about his daughter Mia sleeping at home. Mrs. Garcia, their elderly neighbor, was watching her for the night. She was the only person Tom trusted with Mia, and she never asked for money because she understood his situation. When Tom got home to their small apartment, he found a note from Mrs. Garcia saying that Mia had eaten her dinner and finished her homework. Tom smiled as he looked at his sleeping daughter. She was 7 years old and looked exactly like her mother Sarah with the same bright eyes and curly hair. Sarah had died in a car accident 2 years ago, leaving Tom to raise Mia alone. Tom had 3 jobs to pay for their tiny apartment, food, and Mia's school supplies. During the day, he worked at a restaurant washing dishes. In the evening, he cleaned offices. On weekends, he did yard work for people in the rich part of town. Even with all that work, there was never enough money. Sometimes Tom would skip meals so Mia could eat properly. The next morning came too quickly. Tom woke up at 4 a.m. and got ready quietly. He had only one good shirt, a white button-down that Sarah had bought him for their anniversary 3 years ago. It was a little old and had been washed many times, but it was still his best piece of clothing. Mia woke up as Tom was packing his small bag. She rubbed her eyes and looked sad. "Daddy, do you really have to go?" she asked. Tom sat on her bed and hugged her tight. "I will only be gone for 2 days, sweetheart. Aunt Anna is getting married, remember? Mrs. Garcia will take good care of you." "I wish I could come too," Mia said. Tom's heart broke a little. He wished he could afford to bring her, but the one ticket had already cost more money than he had. Anna had to help him, and he felt embarrassed about that. "Next time, I promise," Tom said, though he was not sure when that would be possible. Mrs. Garcia arrived early to help Mia get ready for school. She was a kind woman in her 70s who had lived in the building for many years. She had watched Tom struggle as a single father and always tried to help when she could. "Go and have a good time," she told Tom. "Mia and I will be fine. We might even make cookies tonight." Tom thanked her and kissed Mia goodbye. The bus to the airport was crowded and smelled bad, but it was cheaper than parking his car there. Tom sat in the back and watched the city pass by through dirty windows. At the airport, Tom felt out of place. Everyone around him looked successful and well-dressed. Their clothes were expensive, and they carried nice luggage. Tom had an old backpack that he used for work. He hoped nobody would notice that his shoes had holes in them. The flight was delayed by an hour, which made Tom nervous. He could not afford to miss the wedding, and he had to be back by Sunday night for his Monday morning shift at the restaurant. Tom found a quiet corner and called Anna to let her know about the delay. "Don't worry," Anna said. "The important thing is that you are coming. I cannot wait to see you, big brother." When they finally called his boarding group, Tom was surprised to learn that his seat was in the very back of the plane. The ticket Anna had bought was the cheapest possible, but Tom was grateful to be flying at all. He had never been on a plane before Sarah died, and they had only flown twice together for their honeymoon and one vacation. The back of the plane was crowded and noisy. Tom squeezed into his middle seat between a large man who was already asleep and a young woman who was talking loudly on her phone. Tom put his head back and closed his eyes, trying to rest. About an hour into the flight, the plane began to shake. The pilot came on the speaker and said they were experiencing turbulence and everyone should stay in their seats with seatbelts on. Tom had been through turbulence before, so he was not too worried. But then the shaking got much worse. The plane dropped suddenly, and people started screaming. Bags fell from the overhead compartments, and the flight attendants looked scared. Tom gripped his armrests and tried to stay calm. That was when he heard someone choking in the front of the plane. Tom looked up and saw a well-dressed woman in first class. She was clutching her throat and could not breathe. Her face was turning red, then purple. The flight attendants rushed to help her, but they seemed confused and panicked. Tom recognized what was happening immediately. Sarah had suffered from a medical condition that sometimes caused her airway to close up. He had learned how to help her during those scary moments, and he had taken a first aid class after she died, thinking it might help him get better jobs. Without thinking about anything else, Tom unbuckled his seatbelt and pushed through the crowd toward the front of the plane. The turbulence was still bad, and he had to grab seats to keep from falling. "Excuse me," he said to the flight attendants. "I think I can help." "Sir, you need to return to your seat," one of them said. "Please, I know what to do," Tom said firmly. The woman was now turning blue, and her eyes were wide with fear. Tom kneeled beside her seat and looked at her carefully. He could see that her airway was blocked, probably from panic and the turbulence combined with some kind of medical condition. "What is your name?" Tom asked her gently. "Lisa," she managed to whisper. "Lisa, I am Tom. I am going to help you, but I need you to try to stay calm, okay?" Tom had her lean forward and used the technique he had learned to help clear her airway. He spoke to her in a calm, steady voice, the same way he had spoken to Sarah during her episodes. "Breathe slowly through your nose," he told Lisa. "That's it. You are doing great." After a few tense minutes, Lisa's breathing became normal again. The color returned to her face, and she was able to sit back in her seat. The flight attendants brought her water and oxygen, and other passengers began to clap. Lisa looked up at Tom with tears in her eyes. She was a beautiful woman in her 40s, wearing expensive clothes and jewelry. Everything about her spoke of wealth and success. "You saved my life," she said quietly. Tom felt embarrassed by all the attention. "I just helped a little. Are you feeling better now?" "Much better, thanks to you." "What is your name again?" "Tom. Tom Miller." "Tom, I do not know how to thank you. You were amazing. Are you a doctor?" Tom felt his face get hot. "No, I am not a doctor. I just learned some first aid." "Well, you should be a doctor. You have a natural gift for helping people. Please, let me do something for you." "Anything." Tom shook his head quickly. "You do not need to do anything. I am just glad you are okay. At least let me buy you dinner, or give you my business card. I want to stay in touch." "That is very kind, but not necessary," Tom said. "I should get back to my seat now." The turbulence had stopped, and the plane was flying smoothly again. Tom made his way back to his seat in the rear of the plane. The other passengers looked at him with respect and gratitude, but Tom just wanted to disappear. For the rest of the flight, Tom kept his head down and tried not to think about what had happened. He felt good about helping Lisa, but he also felt embarrassed about the difference between them. She belonged in first class with her expensive clothes and confident manner. He belonged in the back with his worn-out shirt and worry about money. When the plane landed in Chicago, Tom waited for everyone else to get off first. He always did this because he was never in a hurry to get anywhere important. As he walked through the airport, he heard someone calling his name. "Tom. Tom Miller." He turned around and saw Lisa hurrying toward him with her expensive luggage. She looked elegant and composed, like she had never been in any danger at all. "I have been looking for you," she said. "You disappeared so quickly after what happened." "I just wanted to let you rest," Tom said, walking faster toward the exit. Please wait. I really want to thank you properly. Let me take you to dinner, or at least give you my contact information. Tom stopped walking and looked at her. She seemed sincere and kind, but he could not explain to her why he could not accept her offer. How could he tell her that he was wearing his only good shirt? How could he explain that he was staying at the cheapest hotel he could find, and that he had brought peanut butter sandwiches for meals because he could not afford to eat at restaurants? You seem like a very nice person, Lisa, but I cannot. I hope you have a wonderful life. Tom walked quickly toward the taxi stand, leaving Lisa standing in the busy airport. He did not look back, even though he could feel her watching him leave. As his taxi drove toward the hotel, Tom thought about the look in Lisa's eyes when she could not breathe. He was glad he had been able to help her, just like he wished someone could have helped Sarah on the night she died. He did not know that Lisa was already planning to find him again. Lisa could not stop thinking about Tom Miller. 3 days had passed since the flight, and she found herself replaying every moment of their brief encounter. She had attended important business meetings and closed million-dollar deals, but her mind kept drifting back to the kind stranger who had saved her life. Lisa owned a successful marketing company in New York City. She lived in a penthouse apartment, drove expensive cars, and wore designer clothes. She had worked hard for 20 years to build her fortune, starting with nothing after her parents died when she was young. Money had always been her measure of success and security. But something had changed during those terrifying minutes on the airplane. When she could not breathe and thought she might die, none of her wealth had mattered. Only Tom's gentle voice and skilled hands had brought her back to safety. She had seen something in his eyes that she had forgotten existed, pure kindness without any expectation of reward. Lisa tried to focus on her work, but she could not. Finally, she decided to find Tom and thank him properly. She started by calling the airline to ask about passenger information. I am sorry, but we cannot give out personal information about other passengers, the customer service representative told her. But he saved my life, Lisa explained. I just want to send him a thank you card. I understand, but we have strict privacy policies. Lisa was not used to being told no. In her business world, money could solve most problems. She decided to hire a private investigator named Robert who specialized in finding people. I need you to locate someone for me, Lisa told Robert when she met him at his office. His name is Tom Miller, and he was on flight 447 from New York to Chicago last Tuesday. Robert was a thin man in his 50s who had spent many years as a police detective. He understood that finding people was not always simple, especially when they had common names. Tom Miller is a very common name, Robert said. Do you have any other information about him? Lisa closed her eyes and tried to remember everything about Tom. He was probably in his early 30s, with brown hair and kind eyes. He was wearing a white shirt that looked like it had been washed many times. He seemed nervous around me, like he was not used to talking to wealthy people. That helps. Do you remember if he mentioned where he was going in Chicago? He did not really talk about himself. He was very humble and did not want any attention. Robert began his search by getting the passenger list from his contacts at the airport. There were 3 Tom Millers on the flight that day. One was a businessman in his 60s who flew first class. Another was a college student who was only 19 years old. The third had purchased the cheapest ticket available and had given an address that turned out to be fake. Your Tom Miller gave a false address when he bought his ticket, Robert told Lisa a few days later. This often happens when people are trying to get cheaper fares by using zip codes from different areas. Can you still find him? Lisa asked. I am working on it. The good news is that he paid with a credit card, so I can trace some information from that. While Robert continued his investigation, Lisa found herself changing in ways she did not expect. She started noticing the people who cleaned her office building at night. She had walked past them for years without really seeing them, but now she wondered about their stories. Were any of them like Tom, working hard just to survive? One evening, Lisa stayed late at the office and started talking to Maria, the woman who cleaned her floor. How long have you worked here? Lisa asked. Maria looked surprised that Lisa was speaking to her. About 3 years, ma'am. Do you like the work? It is honest work, Maria said carefully. It helps me pay for my daughter's school. Lisa realized she had never thought about the personal lives of the people who made her comfortable life possible. She started leaving better tips for servers at restaurants and saying thank you to security guards and maintenance workers. Robert called Lisa 2 weeks after she had hired him. I found your Tom Miller, he said. But I think you should prepare yourself. His story is not what you might expect. Lisa met Robert at a coffee shop near her office. He had a thick folder with him containing his research. Tom Miller is 32 years old and lives in Queens with his 7-year-old daughter Mia, Robert began. His wife Sarah died in a car accident 2 years ago, and he has been raising his daughter alone ever since. Lisa felt her heart sink. She had not known that Tom was dealing with such tragedy. He works 3 jobs, Robert continued. He washes dishes at a restaurant called Pete's Diner during the day, cleans office buildings at night, and does yard work on weekends. Even with all that work, he barely makes enough money to pay rent and buy food. Why did he give a fake address for the plane ticket? Because the airline offers cheaper fares for certain zip codes. Tom probably saved $50 by using a fake address, which might have been the difference between going to his sister's wedding or not going at all. Lisa stared at the folder, feeling ashamed of her wealth. What else do you know about him? He lives in a small apartment building in a neighborhood that is not very safe. His neighbors say he is a good father who works very hard. The little girl, Mia, is smart and well-behaved despite their difficult situation. Robert opened the folder and showed Lisa some photographs he had taken from a distance. There was Tom walking to work in the early morning, wearing the same white shirt Lisa remembered from the plane. There was another photo of him picking up his daughter from school, holding her hand and smiling despite looking exhausted. There is something else you should know, Robert said quietly. Tom's daughter has asthma, and her medication is expensive. Sometimes Tom has to choose between buying her medicine and paying other bills. Lisa felt sick. While she had been living in luxury, the man who saved her life was struggling to afford medicine for his child. Where is he now? Lisa asked. He lost one of his jobs last week. The restaurant owner found out he had missed work for the trip to Chicago, and he fired him for being unreliable. Lisa stood up quickly, knocking over her coffee cup. He lost his job because he went to save his sister's wedding. Because he was on that plane where he saved my life. It looks that way. I spoke to some of his former coworkers, and they said Tom never missed work before. But the restaurant business is tough, and the owner does not like employees who take time off. Lisa felt anger rising in her chest. She had built her company by being tough in business, but this was different. This was a good man being punished for trying to live his life and help others. I need to find him right away, Lisa said. I can give you his address, but I should warn you, he might not want to see you. People in his situation often feel embarrassed around wealthy people. They think you will judge them or try to give them charity. Lisa understood this now. She remembered how Tom had hurried away from her at the airport, how he had refused her offer of dinner or contact information. He had not wanted her pity or her money. He had just wanted to disappear back into his difficult life. Give me his address anyway, Lisa said. I need to try. That evening, Lisa drove to Queens in her expensive car. The neighborhood was very different from her part of Manhattan. The buildings were old and needed repair, and the streets were not very clean. Lisa felt nervous as she parked her car, worried that it might be stolen or damaged. Tom's building was a 5-story apartment complex that had seen better days. The front door was broken, and the hallway smelled like cooking food and cleaning supplies. Lisa climbed to the 3rd floor and found apartment 3B. She could hear voices inside, a man and a young girl. Lisa knocked softly on the door. The voices stopped, and she heard footsteps approaching. The door opened, but only a little bit because of a chain lock. Yes. It was Tom's voice. Hello, Tom. It is Lisa, from the airplane. There was a long silence. Then Lisa heard the chain being removed, and the door opened wider. Tom looked exactly the same but more tired. He was wearing old jeans and a t-shirt that had holes in it. Lisa? What are you doing here? How did you find me? Behind Tom, Lisa could see a little girl with curly hair peeking around the corner. The apartment was tiny but very clean. There were drawings on the refrigerator and toys organized neatly in one corner. I hired someone to find you, Lisa said honestly. I needed to thank you properly for saving my life. Tom's face turned red, and he looked embarrassed. You did not need to do that. And you should not be in this neighborhood alone at night. It is not safe. Can I come in for just a minute? I promise I will not stay long. Tom hesitated, then stepped back to let her enter. The little girl ran to him and held his hand. This is my daughter Mia, Tom said quietly. Mia, this is the lady I told you about from the airplane. Mia looked up at Lisa with bright, intelligent eyes. Daddy said you were very brave when the plane was shaking. Lisa knelt down to Mia's level. Actually, your daddy was the brave one. He took care of me when I was scared. Tom looked uncomfortable with the attention. Lisa, I appreciate you coming here, but we were just about to have dinner. And like I said, you should not be driving around here alone. Lisa looked around the small apartment and noticed there were only 2 places set at the tiny table. She realized Tom was probably stretching their small amount of food to make it last longer. I understand, Lisa said, standing up. But Tom, I learned something about you that I think you should know. What do you mean? I know you lost your job because you went to your sister's wedding. Because you were on that plane. Tom's face went pale. How do you know about that? It does not matter how. What matters is that you lost your job partly because you were there to save my life. That is not fair, and I want to help fix it. I do not need your help, Tom said firmly. We are doing fine on our own. Lisa could see that Tom was proud and independent, but she also noticed things he probably did not realize she could see. There was almost no food in their refrigerator, which she could see through the open kitchen area. Mia was wearing clothes that were too small for her, and there were medical bills stacked on a small desk in the corner. I am not offering charity, Lisa said carefully. I have a business proposition for you. What kind of proposition? Lisa took a deep breath. She had been thinking about this during the drive to Queens, and she had an idea that might work. I think you should become a paramedic, she said. Tom stared at Lisa in confusion. A paramedic? I do not understand. Lisa sat down carefully on the edge of Tom's small couch. Mia stayed close to her father, watching this strange woman who had appeared at their door. On the airplane, you knew exactly what to do when I could not breathe, Lisa explained. You were calm and skilled. The flight attendants were panicking, but you took control of the situation like a trained professional. I just learned some basic first aid, Tom said. That does not make me qualified to be a paramedic. But it shows you have natural ability. And more importantly, you have the right heart for it. Do you know how many people would have helped me that day? Tom shook his head. Most people would have been too scared or too worried about getting in trouble. But you did not think about yourself at all. You just saw someone who needed help, and you helped. Mia tugged on her father's shirt. Daddy, what is a paramedic? Tom picked up his daughter and held her on his lap. Paramedics are people who help sick and hurt people, like doctors, but they go to where the emergency is happening. Like when you helped the lady on the airplane? Yes, something like that. Lisa watched Tom with his daughter and saw the gentle patience he had shown her during the flight. She was more convinced than ever that her idea was right. Tom, I want to propose something to you, Lisa said. I will pay for you to go to paramedic school, and I will help support you and Mia while you are studying. In return, after you graduate, you will help me start a foundation to help other single parents in difficult situations. Tom's eyes widened. Lisa, I cannot accept that much help from you. Why not? Because it is too much. I do not know you well enough to accept something that big. Lisa had expected this response. She had spent the last few weeks learning about Tom's situation, and she understood that he was proud and independent. Let me tell you something about myself, Lisa said. Before that day on the airplane, I was not a very good person. Tom looked surprised. That is not true. You seem very nice. I was successful, but I was selfish. I only cared about making money and building my business. I never noticed the people around me who were struggling. I walked past janitors and waitresses and security guards every day without really seeing them as human beings. Mia had climbed down from Tom's lap and was now playing with her toys on the floor, but she was listening to the conversation. When you saved my life, you did not know anything about me, Lisa continued. You did not know if I was rich or poor, nice or mean, worth saving or not. You just saw someone who needed help, and you helped. That changed something inside me. Tom was quiet, thinking about what Lisa was saying. I started noticing people differently after that day. I talked to Maria, the woman who cleans my office, and learned that she works 2 jobs to pay for her daughter's education. I started leaving bigger tips for servers and saying thank you to people I used to ignore. That is good, Tom said softly. But it was not enough. I realized that I had been given a gift, the gift of financial success, and I was not using it to help anyone but myself. When I found out about your situation, I knew what I had to do. Lisa reached into her purse and pulled out some papers. I already looked into paramedic programs in New York. There is an excellent one that takes 18 months to complete. The total cost for tuition, books, and fees is about $15,000. Tom's face went pale. $15,000. Lisa, I could not afford that in 10 years. But I can afford it easily. That is less than I spend on clothes in a year. Tom stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see kids playing in the street under broken streetlights. This was the world he knew, the world where people like him worked hard just to survive. Why would you want to spend that much money on someone you barely know? He asked. Because you saved my life. Because you deserve a chance to do work that you are good at. Because your daughter deserves to have a father who can provide for her properly. At the mention of Mia, Tom's expression softened. He looked at his daughter, who was now sitting on the floor drawing pictures with old crayons. Daddy, Mia said without looking up from her drawing, is the nice lady going to help you become a people helper? Tom sat down next to his daughter. I do not know, sweetheart. It is complicated. Mommy used to say that when people help each other, good things happen. Tom felt his eyes fill with tears. Sarah had always believed in helping others, even when they had very little themselves. She would have wanted him to accept Lisa's offer if it meant a better life for Mia. Lisa watched this tender moment between father and daughter and felt her own emotions rising. She had never had children, had always been too focused on work. But seeing Tom with Mia made her understand what real love looked like. There is something else, Lisa said gently. I spoke to a doctor about Mia's asthma medication. If you have better health insurance as a paramedic, her medicine will cost much less. This was the deciding factor for Tom. He had been worried about affording Mia's medication for months. Sometimes he had to ask Mrs. Garcia to watch Mia for extra hours so he could work more jobs to pay for the medicine. What exactly are you asking me to do? Tom said finally. Go to school to become a paramedic. Study hard and graduate. Then work with me to help other families like yours. What kind of foundation? We could provide scholarships for single parents who want to go back to school. We could help with emergency expenses like medical bills or rent. We could offer job training and placement services. Tom was quiet for a long time, thinking. Lisa waited patiently, watching Mia color her picture. What if I fail the program? Tom asked. You will not fail. You are smart and dedicated. And if you need extra help with studying, I will hire tutors. What if I finish school and then you change your mind about the foundation? I will put our agreement in writing. But Tom, I am not going to change my mind. Helping people is the most important work I have ever done. Tom looked around his small apartment. The walls needed paint, and the furniture was old and worn. But it was clean and filled with love. Mia was happy and healthy, despite their financial struggles. I need time to think about this, Tom said. Of course. Take all the time you need. Lisa stood up to leave, but Mia ran over to her with her drawing. This is for you, Mia said, holding up a picture she had drawn with crayons. Lisa looked at the drawing and felt her heart skip. It showed a stick figure man helping a stick figure woman, with an airplane in the background. Above the airplane, Mia had written, Daddy helps people, in careful letters. This is beautiful, Mia. Thank you so much. Daddy says helping people is the most important thing you can do. Lisa looked at Tom, who was smiling proudly at his daughter. Your daddy is absolutely right, Lisa said. 3 days later, Tom called Lisa and asked to meet her for coffee. When they met at a small diner near his apartment, Tom looked nervous but determined. I have been thinking about your offer, he said. And I want to accept it, but with some conditions. What conditions? I want to pay you back after I graduate and get a job. Not all at once, but a little bit every month until the debt is paid. Lisa started to protest, but Tom held up his hand. This is important to me. I do not want charity. I want a chance to earn something better for my daughter and myself. All right. What else? I want to start working on the foundation ideas while I am in school. I can help with research and planning, even if I cannot work full-time yet. That sounds perfect. Tom smiled for the first time since Lisa had met him. Then yes, I accept your offer. When can I start? 6 months later, Tom was halfway through his paramedic training and doing very well in his classes. Lisa had kept her promise to support him and Mia during his studies. She had also become a regular part of their lives, often joining them for dinner or helping Mia with her homework. Mia's asthma was under much better control with proper medication and regular doctor visits. She was thriving in school and had made many friends. Tom was happier than he had been since Sarah died. The foundation was taking shape too. Lisa and Tom had interviewed dozens of single parents and learned about their specific needs. They had created programs for emergency financial assistance, educational scholarships, and job training. One evening, as Tom was studying for an important exam, Lisa brought over dinner for him and Mia. How are the practice tests going? She asked. Good. I think I am ready for the real test next week. I know you are. You have worked so hard. Mia ran into the room wearing her pajamas. Lisa, will you read me a story? Of course, sweetheart. As Lisa read to Mia, Tom watched them together and felt grateful beyond words. A year ago, he had been struggling just to survive. Now he was building a career he loved, his daughter was healthy and happy, and he had found a true friend in Lisa. But more than that, he had found his purpose. During his training, Tom had helped save several lives. Each time, he remembered the moment on the airplane when he had helped Lisa breathe again. He understood now that some people are meant to be healers, and he was one of them. After Mia fell asleep, Tom and Lisa sat in the living room planning their next foundation project. I have been thinking, Lisa said. What if we expand the program to help with emergency childcare too? A lot of single parents lose jobs because they cannot find someone to watch their kids when they are sick. That is a great idea. Mrs. Garcia has helped me so much with Mia. Every parent should have someone like her. Lisa smiled. Mrs. Garcia has agreed to help train other volunteers for our childcare program. Tom shook his head in amazement. A year ago, I thought my life was over. I was working 3 jobs and still could not make ends meet. I thought I would never be able to give Mia the life she deserves. And now? Now I wake up every morning excited about the day. I love my classes, I love helping people, and I love working on the foundation with you. Lisa looked around the apartment, which was still small but now felt warm and comfortable rather than desperate. New furniture, fresh paint, and plenty of food had made it a real home. Tom, I want you to know something. When I hired that investigator to find you, I thought I was doing you a favor. But you saved my life in more ways than one. What do you mean? I was empty inside before I met you. I had money and success, but I had no real purpose. You showed me what it means to live for something bigger than yourself. Tom reached over and squeezed Lisa's hand. We saved each other. As they sat together planning ways to help other struggling families, both Tom and Lisa understood that their meeting on the airplane had been more than just chance. Sometimes the universe puts people exactly where they need to be, exactly when they need to be there. Tom had disappeared from that plane without a word because he thought he had nothing to offer someone like Lisa. But in the end, he had given her the greatest gift possible, the chance to discover who she really wanted to be.